Welcome to everyone. Today, we're glad to see you. My name is Christy Simon, the President and CEO of the Central Maryland Chamber. We're glad you were able to join us this morning for our remote teleworking workshop presented by the Chamber's Regional Economic Development Committee. We're looking forward to a great program today. So as you may know, the Chamber's been having a series of great educational events that have been recorded, and they're accessible for free right on our website, which is www.centralmarylandchamber.org. You can also sign up for our newsletter and follow us on social media for all of the information and great resources that we're offering. So please take a moment to add your contact information into the chat box. Following the event, we will share that with the attendees so you can stay in touch with each other. And if you have questions that come up throughout the program, you're welcome to add those in the chat box as well. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce the chair of our Regional Economic Development Committee, Jonathan Williams, who will go over our program for today.
Thanks, Christy, and good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. So we, the Regional Economic Development Committee, of which there's probably about half of you, I think, are already on the committee. And those of you that aren't on the committee, we'd invite you to join us. We meet virtually these days, second Tuesday of every month. So if you're interested, ping me or Christy or Kim, and we'll get you in touch. We'd love to have you participate. But a couple months ago, we've been tossing around a whole bunch of topics about how we all continue to adapt to COVID and the fallout from COVID. And we talked about the fact that many of us, if not all of us, are working remotely, and how much of that might continue into the future. And then how to, those of you that are managers, supervisors, and so forth, how do we find the right approach to doing this long-term, even after the virus is hopefully sooner and later under control. And so that's what we came up with this in a different format. This is not intended to be a panel. There's nobody actually speaking. So it gives each of you a chance to participate. We want this to be workshop style. And I think given that there are, let me count, 13 of us, I think we're a small enough group that hopefully we can just kind of all contribute without having too many rules, and kind of self-police is what I'd ask us to each to do, and give each person a time to speak and contribute. To give a framework for it, we came up with 4 kind of overlying questions. One is, what's the best balance of working from office or your shop, depending on your normal place of work, your home, and then elsewhere if you happen to travel or commute or have to, visit clients or visit project sites or things like that. Second question is, which teleworking systems have proven the most valuable or the troublesome or whatever? And then to what extent do you think you'll keep or modify any remote and teleworking options going forward after the virus is under control? And then the other one is, what aspects of working physically together are the most important to you? I think that's the last one's kind of a key question, is we all debate on what it means to work together versus work apart physically. So with that said, since we're a small group, if we were going to do these in order, but if there's anybody has a really strong preference for one over the other of the questions, do we have a way to do a poll, I guess, or we just let's just do a raise of hands. There's so many of us. So how many would like to do question number 1 first? What's the best balance of working from home? Anybody have a vote for that one? So we got like 3 or 4. How about teleworking systems? Anybody have a vote for that one? Not as much. To what extent will you keep or modify teleworking going forward? Is that topic of interest to others? So we have about another 3 or 4. And then what aspects of physically working together are important? How about that topic? Probably about 3 or 4. So it seems like the one that got the least is the teleworking systems. So we'll kind of hit I think the other ones that we generally had about an equal vote. So we'll start with 1, then do 2, and then 3 if we have time. We wanted to pace these out for roughly 15 minutes apiece, but if everybody's having good conversation, we can continue on. So does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so I'll throw out the first one again. What's the best balance of working from your office or your shop or your normal place of work, working from home and elsewhere? Anybody want to weigh in on this? So open conversation, share thoughts. No wrong answers, no right answers, I don't think.
I found that my working day has started later and later. The longer this COVID goes on, I was starting at 7, then 8, and now I'm really starting to settle down at 9. But I'm working later too. But I'm trying to force myself to have a clean start time and a clean stop time. so that they, there's some balance there between life and work.
You're kind of
Yeah.
self-managing your work hours is what you're saying, right? So-
Yeah.
I think I'm more productive when I'm in the office versus when I'm at home. And especially because I have 2 kids at home who are homeschooling, and they're constantly going back and forth into the office, even though I have my door closed. So I've started to discipline myself as far as like working 2.5 days from the office and working 2.5 days at home, so that they know I'm not at home on certain days. You have to wing it on your own, versus the other later half of the week where it's usually not as busy at work either. I can be at home and not necessarily slack, but I can build my day around it a little bit better.
Kirsten, how old are your kids that are homeschooling?
9 and 12.
Okay.
Do you see that changing at all once the kids go back to school?
Possibly. So I've always wanted to have some type of option of working from home, even in my previous job, but it was never even a topic. But I think I would be more productive from home if the kids weren't here. I can build my work schedule around it. Doing a lot of computer stuff, data entry, I can do it from home and would save on gas going into the office and just be more relaxed. So I think it would be an added benefit for an employee to do that, but really without distractions at home. That's the main thing.
I think I'm experiencing a little different from what you guys are. We've been trying to get me to work from home at least 1 day a week for some years now. And last March, when we came home, the hard part was getting me to not be working. Because anyway, when I would leave to go to the office, I would work and then I'd come home and sign back in. So the hard part was getting up and I'm in front of my computer right away, working. And the last quarter, I was pulling anywhere from 77 to 80-hour weeks, working every day of the week, including weekends. So now I'm trying to be a little more disciplined, kind of like Aaron is saying he's working later. I'm trying to put myself more into the business hours so that I'm not being taken advantage of by the clients. Mm-hmm. And as to commuting, I'm able to be more productive because I'm not fighting the traffic. I'm not having people open my door and have a conversation with me, except unless it's my husband who comes downstairs. He's been working remotely for 23, 24 years. His entire crew is. So to me, this is actually better in many ways. However, it's harder to get a break during the day. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to discipline and force myself to be a little more concerned about my well-being. And I'm thankful because Candace, who's the president of our firm, is, you know what, take care of you. If you drop dead, they're not going to give a crap. They'll move on. She said, take care of you. So I'm trying to, she said, train the clients. So I'm trying to do that.
So a couple of people touched on the topic of discipline, I think, in various ways, managing your time, managing your quiet space, managing things like that. Any other commentary on that topic about just kind of finding that balance and managing yourself or managing your life?
Yeah, it's been very difficult. As a government employee, I, like you, Beth, I was working 70, 80 hours a week, and I felt almost a guilt if I wasn't working because tax dollars are paying my salary. And there were so many emergencies going on that I felt that I wasn't serving my people if I wasn't working. So it's been really tough. And I haven't yet found the proper balance to it, but I have tried to move my computer out of the room, because before I would just carry it wherever I went throughout the house. But now I turn it off and I put it into another room, try to walk outside, do things like that. But it's still a difficult, I haven't found the right answer yet.
It is very hard because you're very concerned about the people that you're serving. And maybe it's just the mind process that I have because of my service time, when I did wear a uniform, but it's still that, who do I serve? So even before you go to bed at night, I'm checking my cell phone her messages, and I'm looking at email from my cell phone before I go to bed, which is a mistake. But I'm always concerned there's that one person that needed, to get something regarding their benefits so they could get to see the doctor the next day, or there's an urgency. But I'm not finding the carriers to be as proactive. I'm finding that some places don't respond as you and I are doing. So there's more lag time. Then we've got the US Postal Service situation where we're having lag time for documents to get to people. Even if you email them, some people aren't even able to open an email. I'm not going to mention the carriers that are having those issues. Those are insurance companies. But at the end of the day, it's about, modifying what we do and having the respect for ourselves. Even when I was in the office, it was still over the hours. I was still always more hours than anybody else. And the owners, were like, one owner was like, I don't care what it takes, you just get it done. And the other, he's now semi-retired, but the daughter runs a business now, and she said, we've got to add staff to you. So I'm cool with that. That's great. Add staff, focus on family. As a semi-newlywed, and it's only been a couple of years, I still want to, give time to the husband. So I'm trying to work on that. And I'm sure we all have those boundaries that we have stepped over to help our client work. And there's also the other side. There's some people that have stepped over the boundaries and are spending more time with family and not doing the work. So how do we manage those people too, without offending them and them quitting and going elsewhere? How do we keep that going? That's a real concern for me. What you do to keep a staff member engaged and following protocol?
I'm a little curious as to anybody's individual situations in terms of being able to work in the office or home. We're kind of unique being an airport. We're a very small staff in that, my bookkeeper could probably work from home most of the time, but we kind of have to be here because it's a hands-on kind of business, with fuel sales and handling people that are flying in and out and just dealing with our pretty large tenant base. We did shut down from, I should say we shut down, the airport still operated from like March to May last year. We just were not staffed. We worked it out. So we were in here a couple times a day between myself and my ops manager, just checking on fuel quality, making sure that things were still in place. But since May, we've been back up and operating with restrictions, like you can't just walk through our offices anymore. Those are locked up. And so we're kind of in a position where we have to be here. I'm just curious, it sounds like everybody else has probably some mix where they're in the office or at home, or so I'm thinking it's kind of industry dependent or job dependent.
In our office, we lost power one day here at home, and I messaged everybody from my phone, said, okay, our power's out. Is anyone in the office? I said, nope, it's free for you. So I was able to go in and spend the entire day there and then come home. Luckily, the power came back on an hour later. Gas fireplaces do get turned on. So the husband did not freeze to death. But our staff, if somebody wants to go in, they just message and see if anyone else is there, so that if they are, they go back into their office room. Our office is set up so there's a great room, and then offices off of that. Candace is not forcing us to go back in. She goes in and she'll even bring the kids in because that gives her a break from working from home, and she can put them into a different office. I've told them to take over my office, at least have Cameron do it. He's my buddy. So a lot of my clients are rotating. I've got other clients that are taking over the office and separating themselves out. And some people aren't going back to offices at all. That's going to affect the commercial real estate industry in the future.
Does anybody else have a business where you just need to be, visit a project site, a client site, or you got, like Michael has some shop type stuff? I think like Martin, if you're on, I think you have things your team has to actually physically get together to do, right? So anybody else have that situation?
I see phone numbers, no names below.
Me being an event, so a lot of people look for the event space. I have to go up and either take video while they're on the call with me, or I have to measure stuff out for them. So it's more beneficial for me to be on property than having to tell them, oh, I'm not working from the property today. Give me 2 more days and I'll get that information out to you. Because in my mind, the customers, you still want to get the information over to them in a reasonable time. So that they can't look anywhere else. So I think for me, it would be beneficial to be more in the office than away. Plus, I think you're more collaborating with your coworkers if they're there.
We've always had a really a non brick and mortar structure. We're a small firm of, between 4-ish people. And so everyone's always been, based at home, and then we would get together as needed, project by project. And we're an environmental firm, so we have to go on site. We're often working as teams, but that's not really the issue. We'll get together with 2-3 people and put on masks and drive to the site together. We meet somewhere neutral instead of going to people's houses and stuff. The challenge has really been, we had never done the Zoom conferences before this happened. We'd always met in person. Now we're doing Zoom and we're working equally effective. And there's just much more social isolation. Like there's members of the team that I have not physically come in contact with for months at a time.
What do you do, Aaron?
Oh, we do environmental consulting work. So the biggest handicap for me has been marketing. I'm regularly going to events where we're networking, getting together with clients, meeting face to face. And the challenge has been trying to keep that relationship going through emails and, little reminder gifts, things like that I, have to be more focused on because I'm not physically shaking their hand, and reminding them. Really, it's a matter of just reminding clients that we're still here so that when this need comes up, they think of us right away.
In my business, we've always looked at it as 3 different things. We work from home, we work from the office, and then we're on the road in a variety of things, working from hotels, do things like that. We do project management for real estate, and while there's some great technologies to keep together and have meetings, including like webcams and videos and photos, there's no substitute for going to a project and getting the sights and sounds, and when things get difficult, to talk to somebody face to face, even behind the mask, and really figure out what's going on around the corner. So we've always had the challenge, and we were shut down like everybody else last year, of like, we can't travel, we can't do this. And we had to quickly find a way to get on planes. We do work all over the United States. So get on planes, get in hotels, and actually find the right way to do that stuff as smartly as we could, because our clients really needed us to do it. So that continues to be our ongoing saga. We can't just work solely from home or solely from the office or anywhere else. We have to find whatever balance means. So.
Yeah, and most of what my company does is regional. It's always a car drive within a couple hours of the area. But, we do a lot of work remotely also. And when I'm saying, I'm not talking about remotely at home, I'm talking about at a library or a coffee shop, or, you go to a site, you spend the morning digging in the dirt, and then the afternoon, you're somewhere near that site, emailing and catching up and report writing and stuff like that. And that's what's really hit us, is this: there's nowhere to go. The coffee shops are now closed. You can't sit in there. The libraries aren't open to the public. So we've had to change our operation and realize we just got to drive back. You can't, there's a portion of the day which has been lost when we normally would be just sitting somewhere working.
That would be definitely a challenge. My daughter-in-law's office, they closed the office, so they have what they call tailgate parties. They go to a parking lot and they sit there on their tailgates and have their meetings, because the virtual meetings just were not enough for them. They need the human interaction.
Our
Yeah,
definitely found some efficiencies with the remote work because we were mandated to work from home. There's no going in the office. And normally we are out meeting with business owners. So I spend my time, in the car going, to different businesses. But the efficiencies that we found is now I'm doing virtual calls with companies, and instead of being in my car or going to, a Starbucks and setting up there, I'm able to right away do that follow-up work because I'm not spending the time in the car or going to the next appointment. So I've been able to definitely be more efficient in my follow-ups after my meetings.
And it's safer because you're not on the phone driving and talking while your hands free. So you're more focused right then and there. That makes more sense too.
Yeah, I've found that too. After a meeting, you get these a few action items, and instead of driving back to the office, now I can immediately after the meeting focus on that action item and get that thing done in at the same time, the same amount it would have taken me to drive to the office. I've now done the action item from the meeting.
Anybody else have any other thoughts on the balancing? Whatever that means. I'm still personally trying to find a better word than balancing because I feel like we use it all the time, but I can't find a better word. So side note.
I'm curious, Jonathan, are you all traveling much now?
Yeah, I have 3 or 4 people traveling today out of my 16. So yeah,
Has that posed issues with them being concerned about being on airplanes and in airports and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. We spent a lot of time talking through how to manage risk. Like it's inherent in the work we do is all about risk management. So we kind of stepped back and said, well, this is a risk event that we're all part of. How do we figure out how to manage the risk rather than run from them? We got to figure out a way first we hid like everybody else did. And then we said, well, how do we work our way through this stuff? And it means something different to everybody. And it still does to this very day, whether it's the virus itself or getting on planes or being in hotels or getting a vaccine. Like all these things we keep talking about is what does it mean to each employee and how do we kind of work people through it? Some people we can just talk about it and everybody goes, okay, I feel comfortable if I do this, this, and this, I'm good. And we have a few people that just refuse to travel, for instance. So that's an ongoing thing. Anybody else have similar comments?
I have a question about your traveling team. Are they wearing goggles on the plane as well as masks?
No one's wearing goggles to my knowledge. So
I have a medical group that they're traveling, and it's client, and they're wearing goggles and face shields when they're flying. They said they're doing this for their own protection. It wasn't required, but they're doing it. They're traveling, and then they get to like they're on the Hollywood sets. They're doing the COVID testing.
Mm. Yeah, to us, the hardest part is just trying to figure out how to satisfy all the myriad of different requirements that every jurisdiction around Maryland, let alone around the country, and which things you got to do, which things are suggestions, which things are good practices. Trying to my personal view, trying to comply with the laws is impossible. So we have to figure out just practical solutions to things. There's just way too many differences everywhere that make it a total nightmare for us to even keep track of. I think we talked about this before we started the group call. Everything's changing all the time. And so Florida, like we go down to Florida a bunch. Florida could almost care less. You can show up there, you don't really matter, but then you come back to Maryland. Okay, so you got to quarantine, you got to get tests, you got to you cross the border into Pennsylvania. Well, if you do it for business, technically you don't have to comply with the rules, but should you? So like, it's really complicated in my mind, way too complicated. But
Who was the toughest state?
Pardon?
Which state is the toughest on rules?
Probably New York.
Okay.
New Jersey's pretty close. So
Does anywhere
Texas,
require
Florida, places like that are pretty easy. So
does anywhere require that your team travel with a COVID test result?
yes, we have a team flying into Chicago today, and they have to, when they land, they have to present COVID test results. And New York is requiring it now too. They actually have military police that greet you at the airport to check it out. So
Cool.
Other places, it's just a suggestion. So
For the 26th, there's new guidelines, I believe, if you're coming in national, either when you come back in, you'll have to show proof of a negative test.
yeah, a lot of places say that, but they're not actually in for. There's nobody there to actually check it. So it's on honor system. That's what we find most places are honor system.
Yeah, I was curious how that was going to happen, what that looks like.
Let's see, should we move on to, so we talked a lot about balance, and I think the next one of the other topics was just kind of working together physically. So kind of flipping the side of, I think a few of you touched on it. What's important to figure out what's important to work physically together or in close proximity to each other versus working remotely, kind of the flip side of the coin. A few of you touched on some things such as building camaraderie.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Can now.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I was having trouble, so I dialed in. So what I do for businesses, it relates to this big time. I'm with Chesapeake Telephone Systems. We market Mitel, and we've been nonstop since March 1st of last year, setting up businesses so they can work from home and also be accountable. And I have felt like a counselor to business owners this past year because when I talk to them, they just open up to me. And it's been a real eye-opener to understand what business owners go through. Anywhere from Tim, and I don't even know if I'm going to have a business 6 months from now, up to, Tim, I need to manage my remote workers. So, gosh, with that question, I've found that the creative types really need to be collaborative. They need to get together, digital marketing agencies, whatever, that they need to feed off each other. While many other business owners want to make sure that I think Beth had a good point when it comes to how do you know what everybody's doing. So our cloud telecom with Mitel allows business owners, managers to understand and know what their people are doing on a daily basis through reporting, through presence and availability on their mobile client and their mobile phones and their mobile applications. So it's been another good point about what you're talking about is we're helping businesses set up methods and procedures and new processes. And that's challenging because I've had to learn a new skill set. Everybody on this call has had to learn a new skill set this past year. It's what we're doing now. And I tell you, it's a lot of businesses are still trying to, is this going to last? And they're kind of in a holding pattern while other businesses understand that we need to keep moving no matter what. We're going to overcome this. So it's a mindset. And I tell you, I've seen a lot of different things going on, anywhere from doctors' offices, making sure that they stay up and running, schools, Spalding switched over to the cloud so their teachers could work from home. So we've been busy, but it's been a real, we've all learned new skill sets, and it's been pretty amazing this past year. So yeah, it's been tough, but it's been good, in my opinion, anyway. So.
To hear. Does anybody find things that you miss, right? Find that you miss from not being physically together? I think Aaron mentioned things about networking, and Beth, did you mention stuff about just, I think, camaraderie and things like that? So how about others on this topic about why it's important to figure out a way to get back together, or if it is worthy of figuring out a way to get back together?
It's going to be challenging.
Yeah,
Going to lunch.
I think what I've seen is that with the work that we do in business development, there's 12 of us on our team, and we all in the beginning kind of just hunkered down and we were doing our own thing, and we really were missing that interaction. Even though we had daily calls, it still wasn't, it wasn't the same. So what we found is we started having simple things like a social, happy hour or something like that. And then we started talking to each other more about personal things, so that we were able to continue to build those bonds that you normally would have in a, an office space. So through this, the kind of incredible thing that's come out of this is our team has become very close. Again, in the beginning, we were all hunkered down doing our own thing and we were separated, but now we're really tight. We're a family, and we pull in and we jump in and we help each other because we have people that have kids and can't do as much work as people that don't have kids. So we're all pulling together to make to make our team a whole. We have quotas that we have to meet. We have many emergency situations that we're thrown into, and we know certain people on the team aren't going to be able to do it because they might have children at home or taking care of an elderly family member. So we've all really pulled together and become a tighter unit because of this.
Are you finding the people with children at home are required to stay within the regular business hours? Our company's been a little more fluid with that, so that if a member one of our teammates has children at home, if they answer emails in the evening, we're fine with that. If they, just as long as the client gets served, we want to make sure they're served. I don't have children at home. As a matter of fact, we've got 6 grandchildren and we miss them terribly, but it's, a matter of balancing what they need to do. So if one member's got young children and they can't be in day school for that time, if he's checking messages during, nap time and then later on in the evening once they're to bed doing it, that's fine. If another one's got school age kids and she's working with them certain times, I'm getting messages at 10 or 11 at night. I'll respond to her, because she's an internal client. She's part of the team, not an outside client, but I'm trying to stay on the work days. Are you finding that you're able to be a little more fluid for your team, your crew?
As funny as it sounds, we're government, but we have a ton of flexibility. So we're lucky to have good management that allows us to have that flexibility, because they understand that we are not working a 9-to-5 job, even so. Because we have pulled together and we've been able to accomplish the tasks, the emergencies that are put in front of us, they allow us that flexibility.
That's good.
Laura, is there anything you guys your team has talked about that you can't wait to get back together to do someday in person?
Have a glass of wine. Just, even though we have built this tighter team and, we consider ourselves a family now, we do miss the face-to-face. I mean, we see each other on, calls, but just, getting together, sitting around and chatting about what's going on in our lives, that's what we look forward to. We all have talked about, different members have, or different team members have, some have homes on the water, and we're like, oh, when this is all over, we're going to, go spend a day at someone's house. Whereas before, we never would have talked about things like that. So looking forward to having that face-to-face.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you have virtual coffee or virtual cocktail parties? I mean, my husband's company, twice a month, they have, one team leads off to have a virtual cocktail party. And at one point they included spouses. And I know a few of them from them flying in and out. He works for Zurich, North America, so that might help. But flying in and out, and they'll crash here, or we see them. We've got one of his teammates. We all vacation the same place together. We didn't go this past year, but we will this year. So when we do these virtuals, it's kind of fun. Our crew, from my office, we don't do that virtual because we're kind of we're a small group. We can reach each other at any time, but his group, because they're all over the country, and sometimes in other countries, they want to do that, to have that cocktail party.
I'm curious to hear from the group, either business owners or managers of a staff. How are you handling when you know it's obvious that somebody is taking advantage of the telework situation. How do you handle that?
Daily or hourly
you got-
catch-up calls, or just being on top of them, asking questions, because that definitely has happened. And it's a challenge, I guess, for some people. It's totally changing up the work environment, so just kind of being on top of them, seeing if they need help, and checking in all the time.
I think on my end, it's so we work with a system where we can log obviously activities and productivity. So coming up with from where I came from, we had weekly and monthly goals that we had to reach as far as productivity and calls and client interactions, but then obviously also the financial goals. So the bookings that are coming in. So once somebody starts slacking, you can address that, even though if they're at home, I feel like.
I think there's a, maybe it's a generational thing, definitely a individual thing where some people just don't, they can't handle or don't respond well to working remotely. They respond well to the group. My daughter is 31. She works for an architectural firm, and when she just started with this firm in April, so she's been working remotely since then. She's never even met people from her office in person, but just their interactions, like she's okay working remotely. There's pieces she misses, but some of her peers, they struggle with it, and it's not because of a desire not to beat the system. It just doesn't work with them to work remotely, and they struggle with their, sounds like they struggle with their production and stuff, again, just because it doesn't, that setup doesn't work for them. They need to be inside, be in that collaborative space, and I wonder if that kind of related to what you're asking, Lori.
Well, a lot of things. One of my customers is a large architectural firm in Baltimore City, and I'll share this with you. They have a major challenge working from home because architectural work is really collaborative, from what I understand. I've never been an architect, but they really feed on each other constantly for ideas. So I do know that when we help them get into a virtual environment, there's a few that can work from home, but most of the time in a business like that, it's collaborative. I mean, you feed off each other. Personally, I can work from home. It was real hard creating that new discipline, but it can be challenging when you have to collaborate to get a project done. Absolutely.
On that topic, we found that's the best part of getting, so we ask ourselves, why would we want to come back to the office, right? And so collaboration was the #1 item. And second was just to be able to escape family situations, kids, things like that, and have that quiet time, like you guys mentioned, which is reality. So, but on the collaboration item, we find we spend so much extra time on Zoom calls and things like that, versus if we were in physically together, bumping into each other, sketching things debating things on a whiteboard, whatever, the creative process seems to unfold more quickly. I think because it's multi-sensory, right? It's not just looking at a screen and talking. There's other things going on, body language that we all don't have anymore. You don't kind of, the sights and sounds and smells aren't there anymore. So
that's not necessarily a bad thing in some situations.
Sometimes, yeah, you're right. There's good and bad with that. So
the biggest problem, one of the biggest challenges I have, I still need to go visit customers because a lot of them have new construction. They're in a commercial real estate building, and it's a tenant improvement going on, and I need to go do a site survey. But what I found is building rapport with people with a mask on. You crack a joke, they don't know you're cracking a joke, right? So it's been it's when you get back with people, and it's different. And without that mask, I mean, building rapport is looking at physiology, right, and talking to people in businesses like mine. So, yeah, the mask can be real challenging. I cracked a few jokes, didn't go over very well. Oh well, So, but I can't. It's going to be nice to be able. Restaurants are going to be flooded when we can get back out a little bit more. It's going to be crazy. I don't plan on spending much time at home. I'd rather go door knocking on businesses than sit home. But hey, right now it's where we're at, right? So.
Well, word of mouth, and that's why the chamber is so important to be involved with for the networking, because the connectivity. Tim, knowing that you're with Chesapeake Telephone, I know who you guys are. It didn't dawn on me, if I have a client moving or what they're doing, maybe, I should be talking to them and say, hey, talk to Tim. Because I know Dave Bull, I don't know if he's still there, but.
No, he's him and his wife are doing their WOW health business. So Dave left about a year ago. Yeah.
Okay. Well, good. Now you have my contact information and communicate with me,
Sure.
And, that's important to know. And Jonathan, I'm licensed all the way down to Florida and Texas. So, maybe I have businesses that need you. I don't know. So it's a matter of let's communicate so that, getting that networking down. And
sure,
it's instead of just cold calling, it's better to have a warm call, a warm introduction, an email introduction. That's a much better way, because rapport building is going to give you that better connectivity. It's just the way I think the business world is going to go from now on. I think that we're going to see some big changes in the future, because we're going to find that, we don't need to be wasting as much gas. We don't need to be, or at least some of us don't need to be. I think we're going to find more productivity. Howard, who's on my team, was like, swore he would never work from home. He swore on it. He lives out in Carroll County, and he's got 2 little ones now. One was born during COVID in the spring. I said, so how want to go back to the office? He said, nope. I'm like, fine with me, it's fine. Because, he's on my team, and I get to make the decision for, if he's going to have to. If we have to have a group get together a point, because he is what's called an account manager, he's not required to go out and face the clients. I'm the one who has to face the clients. No makeup though. Sorry.
I think another area where found some success back in the beginning, I was managing a team for the state emergency grants, and the team members were from other agencies. So I didn't know the people that were on the team. And what I found it added great value and ended up leading to good production was, again, getting to know the people and forming a relationship. So I gave them the ability to call me whenever, whatever type of questions they had. And while we talked about those questions, we also chatted about some personal issues, just chatting, do you have kids at home? Are you taking care of parents? So we built a quick rapport, which then led me to understand more about them, what their work environment was like. And it gave me the ability to lead them in a way where I knew that I had to work with people differently, that I couldn't handle everyone the same way. So building relationships, and you on the phone that are business owners, you probably have those relationships with your employees, new members on board, or new companies that you're working with that you have to manage easily. So I still think it's one of the key things is having that rapport and building those relationships, which leads, I think, to better production.
I agree.
Laura, you started to touch on some kind of supervisory questions. Any other thoughts you have on the kind of managing from a management side of I guess all of us are actually employees and some of us are managers at the same time, I guess. So employees would love to stay home all the time, I think. But then as a manager, other thoughts on managing and making the remote effective, I guess. So.
I think it's been really tough on managers. You're lucky if you have a good crew that you don't have to stay on top of, or call them every day. but I've seen managers, whether it be within our organization or, companies, that HR and management have to completely change the way that they're handling their employees, because some employees might not share what's going on in their life, and they're not getting, their work done. And then there becomes a tense situation because the manager has to look at some disciplinary actions. So I really feel for people in management positions now, because their world has really changed the way that they have to handle people.
I have a sort of a different challenge. Like I said, we have to be here. We can't really not staff the airport. Our offices are also what serves as the terminal building. So when people are flying in, and it's all small business and personal aircraft, but we're the place they come to. And it's, how do I keep the airport welcoming and also protect my people? Because we have folks flying in from, various parts of the country, and I refer to them as non-believers. We have a lot of folks that fly in. I mean, we keep, to the extent we can, we keep our offices locked. You have to have masks on. We have to have masks on when we go outside our individual office. We have hand sanitizer, that kind of stuff. We have to let you into the building. But there is a part of it that's accessible to the folks that fly in. But we have it posted, they have to wear masks. We want them to use hand sanitizer. But weekly I struggle with folks that are flying in that don't want to wear masks, and you ask them to put one on and they look at you like you have three heads. And it's, I have to keep, my folks are sharing this space, and I have to keep them safe too. And the science is telling us if we wear masks and wash our hands and those kinds of things, we limit the transmission. So my struggle is kind of that. How do I keep my folks safe here and keep the airport operating? We have large hangars that we have various tenants in their spaces. I let them do what they want to do. In the common spaces, I encourage everybody to wear masks, but I can't really mandate that or enforce it. So it's I'm kind of in a different challenge. It's not how do I manage my remote workforce, it's how do I keep my on-site workforce safe. I think Jonathan,
liability
people traveling too. How do you do that?
Exactly.
You can't mandate it, Michael?
In the public common areas of the airport, not really. And I don't try, just, we strongly suggest it, but I don't really have a way to enforce it. And I don't really have much of a stick to do anything for those folks that don't want to. And there's a large population that don't. Interestingly enough, one tenant that does medical work, and their folks don't want to wear a mask walking around the hangar. It's really interesting to me that they in particular don't want to do it. But yeah, I definitely lock it down here. And if we have a particular building where most of the tenants feel strongly about it, then I'll weigh in and help them where I can. But no, otherwise I really can't.
Do you feel it's because I've been there for some networking events, and that there's a lot of good breeze going through there? Do you think that they feel because it's open air that it would be safer? Or, if you post some of the state rules, would that help?
I think it's just, I think it comes down to the individuals. And like I say, it's like coming into my building there, the one part of the building that's accessible 24 hours a day. It's posted that you have to wear masks. People will fly in and walk by 3 signs that tell them to put a mask on and not put it on. When you say something to them, it's like, oh yeah, I have my mask, it's in my pocket. It's like, well,
Yeah, but that does no good.
Put it on or get out of the building kind of thing,
Jeez, you can't fix stupid. I'm sorry.
I think it's really tough. Like we travel all over the United States, and it varies tremendously. We go to Alabama and people will refuse, like most people just refuse to wear a mask. They, you hear lots of the stories on TV. It's just true. And so, but we can't just like take a political stand. We got work to get done, right? So we got to figure out how to, like Michael said, protect our employees, allow other people to have their personal liberties, and still figure out a way to get stuff done. And that's like really, I think that's going to be a challenge for a long time. What I worry that even with the vaccine, we talk internally a lot about the masks are protect others, the vaccine is to protect you. And then that's kind of our general philosophy we talk about a lot, and how to use those two basic things to kind of keep moving forward, because I think in many places it's going to be a long time till this stuff gets straightened out and till we reach that herd immunity. We'll be lucky, in my view, we'll be lucky if we get it done this year. So like we have a long way to go, and trying to manage the people and trying to we all get tired and fatigued of wearing the mask and doing things. So to me as a supervisor, that's one of my hardest things, just picking up what Michael said, is to keep everybody safe, keep everybody vigilant when we're all getting really tired of a lot of things. So
I think hope is a very strange thing right now. There are a lot of people that this is wearing on people big time. Everybody here works with people, has responsibilities for employees. And like I said, when I talk to a lot of business owners weekly, and I feel like a counselor because I'm trying to help them improve their business and creating new procedures. And everything you're saying is what I hear from my customers every day. And as leaders, we need to let people know, hey, you know what, keep pushing forward. You know what, this is not going to last forever. But I just see a lot of people out there that are having, just mindset challenges, just, focusing on moving forward with life. Last year was really tough.
At the rate we're going, from what I'm hearing from my nursing clients and from my other medical clients, and then Mr. Hayden upstairs, who reads every legal document he can on this, we are going to be in masks for a while. I know our household will be, especially, but this has been, you look at the masks people are wearing and why some people are still getting sick. They're wearing masks, the gap on the side, the N95 keeps out 95% of whatever germs. As you're breathing in, you should make sure you have a good seal, because if that seal is broken on the edges and you breathe in some of it, if you think of it like that fairy dust glitter, you throw it out there, those germs, or like when you walked into the days when we would go to the mall and somebody down at the big department store sprayed perfume, you could smell it all the way down by the food court. It's like that. So depending on how much of that little glitter or aerosol you get, it's going to affect you and how your body's going to respond. The people that I know that are getting the shots already, my daughter-in-law is in a healthcare setting, so therefore she had to get the shot last week, had 2 days of migraine, aches and pains and everything else to go with it. That was her first shot. Matt Slovic, who's one of us at the chamber, no effect, no problem at all. So it's going to depend on a lot of things. We're still going to have to wear masks after you get the shot, because you're still going to be able to, just like any of the flus, if you get the flu shot, you can still get the flu. It would just be a lesser amount of flu if you get it. So if you get a severe flu and you've already had your flu shot, God forbid what would happen if you hadn't had it. If you don't get the flu, you could still carry it and spread it to others because your body's exposed, it's still fighting it, so you're not seeing any action going on in your body. Those germs are still going to be out there. You have to keep that in mind. This is not a polio vaccine that tries to eradicate this illness. This is a mutating virus that's finding ways, like Plato, to change. We have to be a little more vigilant to protect ourselves. So at the airport, if they're not wearing masks, you wear your best mask and have several of them in your car so you can rotate them, or several of them in your office so you can rotate them. Color code them, do whatever you have to do to protect yourself. If your staff has to go out across the country, like Jonathan's team, keep your supply. Make sure you do what you got to do. You got to protect you. You can't fix the dummies out there.
Well, I think, I have to believe that, and I don't want to be political about this statement, but I have to believe that with administration changes, that there is going to be a plan. So Jonathan thing you spoke about, there being so many different rules that have to be followed. What I envision, I hope is going to happen is we're going to have a more, there's going to be more togetherness about how we're going to monitor this. How are we going to move forward? I think you'll see jurisdictions, come together at state levels, and state levels come flowing up to the federal levels. So that I think will give some people something to look forward to, that there's a plan to try to tackle this now.
I agree. I certainly hope that they put some rules down that are more, national and get this cleaned up. That would make some sense. It would be logical, but there's a lot of mess to clean up.
Anybody else have any other views on, we're coming to the end of our time here. Anybody else have any other views you didn't get a chance to share on kind of working from home, finding the right balance, teleworking? We hit on a lot of really good topics, but.
How much are you saving money-wise? Clothes, gas? You're saving on a lot of stuff, right?
We kind of talked about it a while ago. The cost is, before we started the actual call, the cost is shifting, right? The employer would normally paid for a bunch of things besides your own personal commuting gas and things like that. But now those costs are kind of falling on some employees for supplies and things like that. So figuring out the right responsibilities and processes are shifting, right? So to manage who's paying for things.
Well, keep in mind, the electric bills go up, but being a member of the chamber, that gives us the opportunity to share the co-op with our chamber team and our chamber families. So any one of you sharing with any of your chamber friends and family, all of your employees have access to the co-op too, that they can start saving money on their utility bills, on their heating and air conditioning, because that is something that's important, and that saves enough money to help make a big difference. So keep that in mind.
Good points.
But the other points, my company never paid mileage, which is sad. I'm thrilled with working from home. I'm glad I've done it. I kind of went kicking and screaming, and now it's like, why did I waste so much time? I'm right here.
Can we do a quick show of hands out of curiosity of who's looking forward to being able to go back to work all the time, or much more? Maybe I should just say it more broadly. Who's looking forward to being able to go back to work versus work from home? Anybody? So about half then. Okay. So that would mean about, a little under half of you hope not to be able to go back to work.
I'd rather be able to go work from home. So.
Yeah, right. You're the
An interesting expense that I never thought of. I have a neighbor that works for a law firm down in DC, and they pay for parking there in the garages. And parking, as you might imagine, is a tough commodity. So for these past 9-10 months, people have, even though they're not in the offices, they've still been paying for their parking, because if they give it up, then they won't have it when it's time to go back to the office, which and it's not cheap. I can't remember the prices, but I mean, they're paying a substantial amount a month for parking that they're not using.
Hundreds.
So, which I thought was interesting.
I have a question for Kirsten. Kirsten, when your kids go back to school, are you going to love working from home?
I think I'm going to make it like a once a week kind of thing, maybe. That makes sense. But I just want to go back to working, because my work is events with people. Mm-hmm. I want that back. I mean, it's proven scientifically that people are more receptive to new information and to learn by being in person in a different setting. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, it was wonderful seeing you all. Let's enjoy.
Thank you.
And hope for tomorrow to bring us a much better day, because we've got some new things coming for all of us. And don't forget the Energy Co-op, right, Christy?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Beth. We will be following up with an email, including the contact information from the chat. We will include the recording, and I'll also include our flyer about the co-op in case anybody would like some more information. So just to close the session real quick, thanks again for joining us, and we hope you will tune in for our future webinars. Our schedule is always able to be found on our website, but we do have 2 events later this week. It's actually the same event we're doing Thursday and Friday in partnership with Luminous Health, which is formerly Anne Arundel Medical Center. We'll be talking about the vaccine, the rollout, myths versus reality, possible side effects, and their staff will be able to answer any questions you may have. So you're welcome to attend that event, and we'll make sure you get information about that following today's event as well. But next week, we're also having a great webinar about the new round of the PPP loans with our partners at Bormel, Grice, and Hewitt. They'll be presenting some great information for us next week. And again, following this event, we'll send you all kinds of great information by email. But lastly, I just want to thank Jonathan for moderating today's presentation and all the members of our Regional Economic Development Committee who do such great work to bring us programs like this. So if you'd like to get more involved with the committee, you can also let me know or reach out to Jonathan or Kim. So again, thanks for being with us, and we hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.
Thank you all.